Empire.
A shakeup in the ATL. Is there any hope for a turnaround? What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And as I alluded to, we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Bringing the insight is my buddy D Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Longtime beat writer, knows that team inside and out, and he's going to take us inside what led to Dan Quinn's firing, why this team has gotten off to such an awful start, and if there's any hope that interim head coach Raheem Morris can turn this team around. So here we go. We're going to get into it right now. And now I am very pleased to be joined by one of the OGs, D Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. How you doing, D-Led?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, I really appreciate you coming on here. A lot going on with the Falcons, and nobody better than you to break it all down for us. How did they get here? I thought that Dan Quinn had figured things out midway through last year. They finished strong. I thought that they were going to kind of, whatever was ailing them last year, they had made some changes. He tweaked his coaching staff and everything, but just an awful start. What do you think went into all this? Why did this happen?
Well, I started noticing a trend a while back that they started slow. You know, they'd gotten kind of fat, enjoyed their press clippings, got to the Super Bowl early. You know, that team wasn't supposed to get there with 7 starters in their first or second year in the league. So, guys started getting paid a little bit. Matt Ryan got his deal, then Julio got his, Grady and Dion and Keanu. Keanu hasn't gotten his. But so for some reason, they always started slow, figuring they could dig out of the hole. In 2017, they did a good job of handling the Super Bowl collapse. They got back to the playoffs, beat the Rams, were on the 1-yard line, getting ready to knock Philly out, and couldn't get it done. And then, after that, Philly goes on to win the Super Bowl, of course. And then the next year, they start 1-4 and start getting injuries. And so rally, get back to 7-9. You just figure, okay, they all got hurt that year. They'll come back the next year and get moving. Didn't happen. They went 1-7 out of the gate. And, that's when the first talk started of firing Dan Quinn. So, they, rallied, won 6 games, 6-2 down the stretch, beat the 49ers on the road, Saints on the road, and Carolina. But Carolina had Kyle Allen, so that didn't matter. But that showed the owner that, hey, this could roll over in the next year. And all us old people are like, no, that never happens. So, he gave him a shot basically because they said, hey, playoffs are bust for 2020. And so now at 0-5, they're not going to the playoffs. And the owner determined to move on, which he kind of, really wanted to do a little bit sooner than this.
Do you think that Dan Quinn's message just got stale? Was it bad personnel choices? What was it? Why did they get off to this start like this?
Yeah, the bad draft picks, because once you paid the offensive guys money, that meant you got to pick the defensive guys. And then he had authority as co-team builder. First-time head coach, mind you, no general manager experience, not a scout even. But right. You give him control of helping to pick the players and the final roster. So understandably, that didn't go very well. They missed on a whole lot of picks. Jalen Collins in the second round. They wanted bigger corners. They Duke Riley in the third round. It's a long list of guys that, they had to hit on to be successful on defense with young players because the money was on the offensive side. And then some of those young players panned out. Grady Jarrett panned out. Tack McKinley didn't. Vic Beasley didn't at defensive end, so you didn't have any pass rush. And then Keanu Neal gets hurt at a strong safety. So the combination of a guy picking players that never picked players before, you demoted the general manager to be his kind of guy. And then, okay, so that didn't work out. And then, he was the brotherhood, the rah, college stuff. Eventually, that does get old in the professional ranks, and I believe that was the case here in Atlanta.
Now, with Vic Beasley, 2016, 15 and a half sacks, I thought he was about to become a monster. 5 sacks, 8 sacks. What happened there?
I think I've put my finger on it. His coach that year was Brian Cox.
Okay.
Former NFL star, real tough coach. And he had Dwight Freeney on the team to kind of be the buffer. Coach Cox didn't back down. He demanded things from Vic and got him that nobody else has been able to get. Brian Young came in. They have Jess Simpson, a good high school coach, one of the great high school coaches in the history of Georgia. And then Tosh Lupo this year. But nobody has gotten the results out of Vic but Brian Cox. And they let him go after that season. And he thinks it was because his incident at the combine when he got into a little scuffle with one of the Arizona scouts over player interviews and stuff. So that's my take, is that Brian Cox got 15.5 sacks out of Vic Beasley and nobody else could.
Yeah. Now, I mean, when you talk about the defensive pieces not fitting right and everything, defense was Dan Quinn's side of the ball. So if there was anything that he should have been an expert on and being able to plug these guys in, why do you think that, that didn't pan out the way that you would have thought it would have?
Yeah, and he was a pass rush guy. So he's supposed to be able to get the pass rush going. I just think, just compare what the Falcons ended up with to what the Legion of Boom was. Okay, Ricardo Allen was supposed to be your Earl Thomas. He hadn't been to a Pro Bowl yet. Good player, but not Earl Thomas. Cam Chancellor, that's supposed to be Keanu Neal. He showed some promise, went to one Pro Bowl, but then he's hurt every year. So he's coming back from Achilles now. So Brian Wagner and KJ Wright. Okay, Deion Jones has been to a Pro Bowl, so okay, he's good. Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford were the corners. Neither one's on Richard Sherman's level. I'm not gonna lock down the side of the field for you. And then you don't have a Michael Bennett up front. You tried to get one in Beasley, and you had him for a little while. And then their tackles were never any good. But Grady Jarrett's turned out to be a player. And, you had Bruce Irvin in there, and my man from Detroit, I'm drawing a blank on him. He started in Detroit, ended up out there. So the other ends were, you didn't have any, like, serviceable 6, 7, 8 sack ends. So, he tried to get him, but his version of the Legion of Boom South did not ever materialize.
Gotcha. So, now that he's here and we see just the brilliance of John Schneider and Pete Carroll and acquiring talent and putting it there. And it's crazy, when a team gets to that Super Bowl level and then the drop off, it's so hard in this league, to remain on that level. And it just shows, just when you look at a team like the Patriots or, that has just that excellence for a decade or longer, it's hard. But, when you said something, about him that, like, kind of that rah-rah style kind of grew old on the guys. Now, they replace him with the guy who's very energetic, very charismatic, and Raheem Morris. How do you think that's going to work? This is a guy that he came there as, the passing game coordinator of the defense. Then he switched to the offensive side of the ball, working with the wide receivers, assistant head coach. Then he's back on defensive coordinator this year. So he knows both sides, but his personality, everything. Why do you think they settled on him, and how do you think it'll work out for him?
Yeah, well, I think they settled on Raheem because they believe the players, what they were afraid of is that, hey, these players back Dan Quinn all the way, they're going to just fold up shop and, we're just going to get pounded the rest of the way. So Raheem is a guy that has a relationship with both sides of the ball, and they think he can be the leader of this fractured group to try to get them to move forward. And the fact that he has 3 years of head coaching experience, granted was at a young age, trial and error. He had a bad team that turned into a good team. Then they were trying to get real young, and they thought a young coach was the guy to lead them. He had so many characters down there, LeGarrette Blount and all those guys, Aqib Talib, Barber at the end. It was a talented team, but, after going 4-12, they decided to move on. So he kind of just went back to the drawing board, ended up in Washington, learning as much as he could from Mike Shanahan, then Kyle, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, and all those folks. And then came here with Quinn, who was his defensive back coach at Hofstra in college. So,
right.
Everybody's always connected in the NFL like that. And so Quinn kind of, was kind of setting him on a path to, if they were winning, he would be a head coaching candidate again. So in a backwards kind of way, he is a head coaching candidate again because of, them losing, not winning. But he's got the people skills. He's much more mature because I had to deal with him when he was in Tampa.
Okay.
Because, at least we talk on conference calls twice a year and meet at the combine. I know we had some talks with Mike Tomlin, one of his other mentors and so forth. So he's got the knowledge and the know-how to do the job, and he's got the people skills. So if he can convince these guys to play harder for him than they did for Dan, maybe he could win some games and, there's no turning this around. It's a bad team. They're giving up 29 plays of 20 yards or more through 5. So, but if he can, show that he can pull them together, they're playing harder. They're not, I don't know how do you quantify success in this type of situation. So I don't know if he's got to win 5 games, 4 games, 3. If he gets them 7-2, what do you do? 7-4, that's going to look pretty good, I think, on his resume. So, he can pull them together. He's already asked him, hey, whatever y'all been giving Dan, I need more. So, maybe we'll see if they might not be capable of it, Mike. But if they are, we're going to see it. He's going to try to drag it out of them.
Arthur Blank said if he's 11-0, he'll certainly be considered. Why? I mean, if he goes 11-0, no interim head coach ever really has a whole lot of success. And so if you go 11-0, that's a pretty remarkable feat. So if you do that, you should be the head coach. Why is Arthur Blank? Is that just revealing the old school mentality that has been plaguing the league for years, that like this coach, this is a black coach here, he's got to be perfect to have consideration? Or was he really just like, he's got no plans of making him his head coach, so he threw out the impossible to give himself an out? What was behind that statement there?
Yeah, I didn't put too much stock in it. I mean, Arthur's 78, and he says stuff. He's all over the place, but in a good way though. In a good way most times. So, and he'll let you know how he feels. He's a fan. He was a season ticket holder for years, and he was like, "I'm just gonna buy the team because they're so bad." So sometimes he goes into ownership mode and fan mode, the founder, one of the co-founders of Home Depot. So I didn't put a lot of stock in that, but he's like, yeah, it was kind of a throwaway comment to me. So I didn't really get on him for that too much, but we, let those fans decide. But if you come in and you make this team look like the playoff team you think it is, they keep talking about all the talent they have. And if you do a good job with it, they got to consider you at that point. But I don't know if it's certainly 11 because he said 11, but I would think 9-2 would give me an interview too. So
right.
We'll see.
Yeah. Is there any hope? Like, what can Raheem change right now to make them better? Has he talked about what aspects? I mean, I watched his press. He didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but I know you're plugged in. Maybe some behind the scenes on what aspects he's got to or what ideas he has to change that could actually improve this team.
Yeah, because I've been pressing him on that, and he just flies right on by. I was like, lineup changes. What we got?
Yeah.
And they kick us out of practice, so we don't get to see it. But he's got to get him to play harder. There's not ain't much he can do personnel wise. He's got to get Isaiah Oliver off the field. The second round pick, another one of their myths in the drafts. They thought he was a big corner out of Colorado. He just keeps getting beat. 57-yarder last week, 38-yarder to DK Metcalf. When the game's in the balance, you can't, be giving those up. So he's got to shuffle his cornerbacks around. Got to find a pass rush somewhere. I don't see it on the roster, but maybe you start blitzing and stuff. The offense is out of sync. It's out of sync. You got a lot of weapons, and Julio's out right now. So if you get him back, that helps a whole lot. But Matt's late on the ball. His balls don't look as hot as they were in the past. He's 35, looking kind of old. And, I found this stat, Mike, yesterday. Last 2 games, he didn't have a touchdown pass, okay? And that's the first time since his rookie year in 2008 that he had 2 games with no touchdown passes. So, to me, that's the first sign of slippage. He had 5 games like that his rookie year, and he's had 5 in the last 2 years. He only had, out of 194 games, he only had 22 games where he didn't throw a touchdown pass.
Wow.
So, he's been a prolific passer in Atlanta since his rookie year, took him to the playoffs. We might be starting to see some signs of slippage at age 35.
Now, and he's making, decent money now. Next year, his cap number, is that right? It jumps up to $40 million?
Yeah, because they've been using his contract as an ATM to pay other people.
Okay, so there's no way he's here next year, right?
Right, exactly.
But they haven't drafted a succession plan.
No, they don't. That's why Arthur Blank came out, and you had to take this part serious. He came out. My question was, hey, is Matt the quarterback of the future? And he says, I can't say that. I won't make that decision. I'm going to leave that up to the new GM and coach. And so if the new GM coach decide, hey, I'm going to go forward without 20% of my salary cap, then you're going forward without 20% of your salary cap for 2 years, and it goes down next year. They're one of the teams that are $37.5 million over the cap already. They can't cut them because that's going to accelerate the hit into 1 year. You can do June 1 and split it, but you can't do that with 3 years left. No. So you go into the draft this year. I don't know if they're going to call it tanking or not, but you got to get up there and try to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. They could roll with Matt for a year, and then, you got options.
Gotcha. Man, so that's because nobody's going to touch that contract. They can't trade him. Unless he agrees to rework it, but that's a lot of reworking you'd have to do for a guy who's, like you said, 35 and showing some age here.
There's one scenario out there, Mike.
Okay.
San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan.
In real life, you think so?
Kyle Shanahan loves Matt Ryan. He got him to the Super Bowl. He's the MVP, and everybody kind of knows he doesn't really like Jimmy G that much.
You're right.
So, but I don't know what their cap situation is. I think it's pretty bad because they had to get rid of DeForest Buckner this year.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how they could do it financially, but if there's some place for him to land, that would make the most sense.
That would make sense. Kyle believes in running the football, taking pressure off his quarterback and things like that. Would be able to work with an aging quarterback. That would be pretty intriguing to see here. Going back to Raheem, okay, so this defense, that was his side of the ball this year. He got moved back to defensive coordinator, but Dan was also a defensive guy. So was Raheem able to run his system, or was he basically doing what Dan wanted him to do? And so now, can he switch things up to be able to run his type of attack?
Yeah, no, this is what got him in trouble the last 2 years. Dan kept trying to roll this hybrid 3-4-4-3 mix up front where, you didn't know what the ends were. Linebackers, he was standing up his ends and dropping them and, trying to do too much with 3-4. That got him to 1-7. So Raheem took over, put him in the Tampa 2. It was like, hey, just keep it in front of us. They went 6-2. So now they go and get Fowler in the offseason, and they go back to trying to do that 3-4 hybrid stuff, and same thing, they're 1-0-5. Okay. So that doesn't work. So Raheem doesn't have any big 4-3 ends. His ends are small. They're 250-ish. He doesn't have any 260 ends. We got Charles Harris, Tack McKinley, Fowler. They all too light to play in the 4-3. So I don't know where he's going to do it at. He can play Allen Bailey at 1, but he doesn't have any. He's going to have to go find a big end, off the street if he's going to go 4-3, play cover 2, and keep it in front of him. But he's got a nickel package that's okay, but his base isn't. He doesn't have the personnel to play the Tampa 2 that him and Dungy and all those other coaches played down there in Tampa. So it's going to be interesting to see what he pulls out his hat, Mike.
Yeah. Do you think, I know he's got relationships with everybody. One knock against him in Tampa was that he was too buddy-buddy with his players.
Yeah, he was 32, though.
Right.
I mean, right. You learn a lot between 32 and 44. He's married now. He's got, 3 kids, 2 by the new wife. So I don't think that's going to be an issue because he knows that it ain't about the players and being cool with the players anymore. It's about, hey, I need y'all to produce some results for yourselves in this situation because everybody's on the block at this point.
Right.
Once you get the coach ran out of town. So, anything you want to do in this league in the future, you better start working on it right now. So
gotcha.
He's going to be real clear and direct with him. I talked to a couple of them so far, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's not playing.
Good deal.
Basically, y'all got his boy fired, and he's not happy about it.
Yeah. All right, lastly, D-Led, what do you think realistic expectations are for the rest of the season for Raheem Morris and the Falcons?
Well, if they could somehow get to 500, just put a game together first. I mean, until they do that, you can use all the excuses, the pandemic, the exhibition games, poor planning, poor coaching. Until they put a whole game together, the expectations are pretty low. You're looking at, we can start talking about Trevor Lawrence low.
Yeah.
I don't really see there's a game where, I thought they could beat Carolina. Minnesota's 1-4, but they lost some close games. They blew one against Seattle last week. So, they lost a close one to 31-30 to Tennessee there, 28-11 to the Colts, and they were in the shootout with the Packers, 43-34. So they got a little bit more firepower than the Falcons, so that's probably an L. You got Denver and Detroit. Maybe you can get those two. You got Carolina again. They'll play the Saints tough. If they don't do nothing, they'll do that. They might give them a split there. Tampa Bay is going to be hard, and they got the Chiefs. So, yeah, they're in the Trevor Lawrence derby in a big way, whether they like it or not.
Right. Good deal. Well,
or Justin Fields, too. I like both of them.
Okay.
They're both from here, and Justin Fields is quite a talent up at Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, D-Led, I won't keep you. I know you got to get ready and get out there to practice. I really appreciate your time. Tell everybody where they can find you. I know you got the paper, you got your podcast, the Bowtie Chronicles, but tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, at D Orlando AJC, we tweet everything out there. Of course, our website is ajc.com. You can bookmark the Falcons page. And our Facebook page is Atlanta Falcons News Now. And we push everything out on those platforms. And the Bowtie Chronicles, we do that twice a week, once after the game on Mondays. And then on Wednesday, we take a look ahead to the team that the Falcons are going to be playing that week. So I appreciate you all subscribing and maybe giving us a review if you feel inclined to join us for one of the episodes.
There we go. Definitely check them out, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, as you can tell, a wealth of knowledge and information here. And I tell you what, a dude who's really fun to hang out with as well. But we'll save those stories for off the podcast.
That'll be another podcast.
Right? All right, D-Led. Thanks. I hope you have a great day.
Okay, you too, Mike. Take care. Shoot me those directions.
All right. Thanks, D-Led.
I don't know about you guys, but after talking to D-Led, I'm not
incredibly optimistic that the Falcons can get this thing fixed. Not this year. Sounds like, yes, unfortunately, I like Dan Quinn, but the right move was to move on, and they got to tear this thing down and build it back up all over again. So it'll be interesting to see, if there's any minimal progress they can make, but what the offseason is going to look like for them. Hope you guys have a great day. Hope that you have a great football weekend. As always, a lot of intriguing matchups on tap, and we'll get to them all next week when we come back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones, and please share this podcast with a friend. Go on iTunes, leave me a rating and review. Help keep this thing growing. Thanks. Have a good one.